December 2024 has been a crazy month for geopolitics. A lot of people are rightfully focused on Syria, where the government was overthrown in an offensive backed by the US, Israel, and Turkey, and Israel has bombed Syria hundreds of times and seized Syrian territory. But today I'm going to talk about another crazy incident that happened the same week, which is that the president of South Korea, a close US ally, attempted to launch a military coup in which he tried to arrest his political opponents, declaring martial law, and he even tried to provoke a war with North Korea, attacking North Korea in order to justify suspending democracy and creating a military dictatorship in the South. Since South Korea's leader Yoon Suk-yeol attempted the coup on the 3rd of December, more and more details have come out showing just how crazy this coup plot was. The leading South Korean newspaper, Hankyoreo, published an article revealing that the former defense minister under the president Yoon Suk-yeol had been trying to provoke a war with North Korea, trying to start a war with North Korea in order to justify imposing martial law and suspending democracy in the South. Now, South Korea is one of Washington's closest allies on earth, and it has been governed by the right-wing President Yoon Suk-yeol, who has been staunchly backed by the US. Foreign Policy magazine noted that Yoon has been a darling of the Washington foreign policy establishment, especially because he has taken a hard line against North Korea and China and has moved to repair relations with Japan. That's why US pundits were practically drooling for this authoritarian leader who tried to overthrow South Korean democracy. What this event shows is how the common narrative in the West that South Korea and Japan are loyal democratic allies against evil authoritarian China, that narrative is completely misleading. First of all, South Korea has only been a democracy since 1988. In fact, until 1987, for the majority of South Korea's history as a country, it was ruled by a series of military dictatorships that were backed by the United States. Similarly, in Japan, it is essentially a one-party state. Japan has been ruled by the right-wing Liberal Democratic Party with very few exceptions since 1955. This is known as the 1955 system. So Washington's closest allies in Asia are two regimes that are very undemocratic, and yet the US has tried to incorporate South Korea and Japan into NATO, into a formal military alliance, and wants to use these countries to isolate and weaken China, which is the main adversary of Washington these days. This is why the US government-funded propaganda outlet Voice of America complained that, quote, South Korea's leadership crisis jeopardizes US efforts to counter China, end quote. This is a ridiculous euphemism. It was not just a leadership crisis, it was an attempted coup by one of Washington's closest allies on earth.